That's normally the thing, right? Like this is you pick like the Kai'Sa, maybe an Alistair. You can also already lock down a counter pick for Klid, or for Rascal rather, and go from there. This is interesting because I feel like it does give you a lot more late game inevitability, which is something that Gen.G definitely lacked last game. But it also means that your top lane actually needs to have impact, right? That you need a top lane that can actually do something, because otherwise Klid's going to be playing with a decided lack of priority in his life, and that's not what you want to be, isn't it, Lee?
Yeah, for sure. Might just be running around farming things out, kind of just hanging out. I'm glad that BDD does switch off of the Syndra. The Kai'Sa will be hovered here, and it will be selected for Ruler, so he does get it once again.
I mean, I don't even have to say it, right? Like, there we go. There is the lock-in for the Tristana. 3 for 3 now for Hannah, and after last game, can't fault them. Run it back from the last composition. Bro basically going for the exact same draft. And honestly, don't forget, that was a early kill on Hoya, and it didn't actually amount to anything last time. So I think Fredit Brion also say, you know what, it's fine. I don't like this Narban. I think that if you leave it open, Gen.G might pick it again, and I think that's actually kind of what you want. I think after this last game, that's actually a situation that's beneficial for you. Because I think that as Gen.G, you can still go for something like the Camille, which... Well, lacking a little bit. Oh, there we go. Okay, thank you, Fredit Brion. Glad you're paying attention as well, which is just an all-around nuisance, and also a good setup for the Nidalee, because now you're looking at like a little bit more niche things, not as strong, also not as good into the Cyan, right? Where traditionally picks in the top lane that like 3D outskill are the Camille, and otherwise you're looking at AP picks, right? Like you can pick a Flood into a tank just from the virtue of it getting a free lane, but you can't do that here because you have Azir and you have Nidalee and you don't want more IP. So now maybe we get into a similar situation where you pick like something that kind of wins against Cyan, but not really. And that's a situation where Fredit Brion said that is completely okay by us as we save the jungler for last here. That's an interesting one.
Well,
yes.
They really wanted to get that Alistair here, right? You're looking at the hover Darius. I don't think we're actually going to have it. Rascal's actually playing Volibear. And Life might be playing Galio. Okay. They're really looking to lock things down this time around, or Gen.G. And Skarner. Okay. Just like that.
I love the Skarner here. I think Skarner is a really strong pick. You have so much hard engage already as Fredit Brion, and it really, really messes with any form of playmaking that you have to go for as Gen.G, because we're in an exact similar situation where if you do get a huge lead on the Volibear, we've seen Bwipo is a really good example of like what that champion can do if you do get a huge lead, but Volibear is not necessarily a matchup like the Irelia Tenor that we saw in game number 1.
Yeah.
Not something that I think you have Prio. I think you can definitely outduel Hoya, but I don't think you will have insane amount of pressure. The one upside for Gen.G is that this time Fredit Brion comp is a lot weaker in the early game.
Yeah, I do feel like this is a comp that can definitely get taken advantage of, right?
Yeah.
And we're not necessarily going to see a 4-0 Tristana again, right? That was a lot of what gave Fredit Brion the ability to come back in the game, as they were behind, by the way, on gold after some of the shenanigans up in the top lane and in the jungle. And, you know, as long as they just lock it down and that doesn't happen, I think that Gen.G should still be in a pretty good spot. But if things go pretty even, or Fredit Brion are at least able to get some kind of a lead, that late game is still going to be very scary. You can imagine Skarner finding anyone and then Tristana just blowing them up. And you've got that really nice front-to-back comp that seems to be very comfortable for Fredit Brion once again.
And one thing that, despite all the shortcomings that we've talked about a lot with Fredit Brion, where the early game isn't the greatest, they often give up too much and then can't really recuperate. One thing I do love is how consistent they are with these drafts. The draft always feels like it has a very clear game plan. Of course, that's a bit easier when you basically draft team fight comps every game, but still, it's something that a lot of other teams sometimes have issue with, where you have parts of comps that want to do different things. And Fredit Brion never has that issue. And I just love Skarner. I think it's a really strong pick. I'm not as big a fan as Captain Flowers, but of course this has been a pick that's like kind of rising to the forefront slowly. Pre-6, you're not the strongest, but you can still duel within your spires. And then post-6, any form of playmaking just gets kind of alleviated, right? Like, as BDD, if you don't pay the tax and you go for like a big Emperor's Divide, you know, you finally find a Tristana and then you're like, impaled.
Yeah.
You're really sad.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, there's no counterplay to that.
Yeah. So we'll see if we even get to a point where that is a factor, right? Because I do still feel like the game could kind of just end in the early to mid game, and then Skarner, like, he looks for impales and he half dies as he's going in, and then he kind of misses it, or he finds someone and they have enough gold so they have QSS, or he gets someone but the whole team is not there because they can't have enough positioning.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the vision lead and stuff like that. And then, you know, it's not a great feeling.
And tying into that, it's a really good point that you make. Is like the Fredit Brion comp also doesn't do a lot from behind because you actually like damage, right? Like last game that was kind of alleviated because you had Lilia who does more damage.
Yeah.
And you also had a Tristana who was 4-0 really early on. Life and Ruler, we didn't want you to do exactly this. Please don't.
Oh. Look at Clid, he is just angry. He's getting in there. And keep in mind, this is red to enemy wolves, so he hasn't actually done anything else. And he's gonna pick up the big wolf at least.
And that's the problem, right? Like, you can't fight Skarner on his spires. Oh, Lava. That was a bit iffy. And, oh my god, Clid. Can you give it a break?
He's really angry.
Yeah, he's mad.
He's trying to get in there and burst it down. He will get the big Raptor. And take a look at this from the top lane. Rascal pushes it in and just denies them a red buff. They're really looking to shut down the Scorpion from minute 1 in this game.
And this is something that we kind of lacked last time, where, yes, there was a kill, but outside of that, the Gnar didn't really give the amount of priority that Clid had in game number 1. And here in game number 3, we see again why you can get away with the Nidalee pick if you really use it. Clid has literally been in Umti's jungle more than his own, right? Like, he's literally, like, exclusively basically has been. Umti is still level 2. Skarner's big thing is that he needs to hit level 6. Yes, he can kind of duel, right? Like, on the Spire with his E. He's not the worst, but it's not where he excels. It's currently 3.5 minutes in game, and he's not even going to get the scuttle.
They're looking to try to engage onto Ruler, though. This level 2 spike for the Tristana Alistar is going to be enough, it looks like, unless some kind of heal comes through. Flashing through, and the first blood will go the way of Delight. Henna is behind enemy lines now, as headbutted in was the Nidalee straight for the kill. That was the best look, as now Delight is going to also meet his own fate, as they were really looking to try to challenge at the Scuttle Crab, trying to get something desperately done for their Skarner, but no can do, essentially, as Rascal was here as well.
And I think it was just, are we going to see Mad Gen.G? I think we can already say 4 minutes into the game. The answer is yes, this is Mad Gen.G. They are not happy about last game.
Yeah.
And they've decided to really bring it, and now you have a situation where you're already up 2-0. So the idea here, of course, from Gen.G is we are just going to straight up fight. But Henna crucially hits level 3 there, and they clump up against an Alistar Tristana with a level lead. You get so much value. The fact that it stalls so long, though, before they actually take down Ruler means that it's really easy. Like, this looks kind of troll, but I don't think there's a situation where you ever get away. Still feels bad, though, as Delight, whose Rakan was banned this game, so instead you're playing on a champion that unfortunately can assist your opponent. And the fact of the matter is that Clid is now 2-0, and if I've seen anything of Clid's playstyle thus far, he's already up a level. I don't think Umti is going to be hitting level 6 anytime soon. And I'm loving that, like, Gen.G is keeping up the pressure on every lane. BDD swapped towards top side just to keep Hoya under his turret, right? Rascal came all the way from top lane to be a part of the bot side skirmish. I think they're just going to keep doing this. Although this crab, fortunately for Umti, he will be able to pick up.
Yeah, and he's going to get both of them, in fact. Throughout just the craziness of the early game and just how hard Gen.G were trying to clamp down on this early game Skarner, he's found a way to, like, eke out some weird wins, right? And the double scuttle. Of course, he didn't lose his red buff, and Clid is 2-0 already. So you're not feeling too good. But at least Umti finds something, some way to try to hit level 6. That's really what you're looking for as a Skarner.
As long as you can get there, right? Umti just wants that 6. He wants to get preferably Chem Tank and maybe some Lucidity boost just for the sync up. Feels really nice when you get both, because then you can simultaneously zoom and impale every single time on cooldown. But it is going to be kind of a rough one. As thank you, everyone. Give yourself a small applause. We are yet again able. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, I think at this point we got to kind of give Atlas a break. I think he's had a really rough time getting blamed for every single Cloud Soul.
I mean, it's his fault.
Well, yeah, naturally, right? But like, you still, I feel like we can give him a little bit of a break. It's his fault that we get them, but it's thanks to you, me, and everyone at home that we actually steer away from them.
Everybody watching today.
Yes,
it turns out. You know what's funny is, you know, you mentioned it before, but the stats were actually that Atlas wasn't number 1.
No, right? Definitely not.
He wasn't number 1 for Cloud Souls, but now because of today, because our other soul rate is increasing, now it actually might come true. Now he might actually have the highest percentage of Cloud Souls. But enough memeing, we do actually have some League of Legends here, some fighting over this blue buff, as Life is just one angry gargoyle, and Umti did not respect him. I mean, he literally just ran straight forward at you, and there was essentially no escape once you got hit by the launch forward. So that's going to be a dead Skarner and his blue buff taken away.
This is the worst type of feeling as a jungler where you continuously get... There was a 4-man invade just to make sure he didn't get his blue buff, right? And yes, he might have given it over to Lava, but considering he isn't 6-shed, I wouldn't be surprised if he took it himself. And now you're in a situation where he still hasn't hit that first Impale, and similar to a jungler like Nocturne, yes, in terms of CS, you're still doing fine, but in terms of early game tempo, Kled is just running circles around you. And the relative value of that first Impale becomes less and less the longer it takes you to actually hit it, right? Because it becomes so much harder to execute this play, and Lava can't leave his lane. You are never allowed to contest this.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have priority.
No.
Both mid and bot are pushed in. That's why they can rotate on in. And then MD just kind of, you know, he's sitting there.
Anyway.
He's desperate to try to get on the blue buff, but Life just says thank you very much. There was no flash for MT. Seems like there was flash for Life, but he didn't even need to use it. And so, just a pretty straightforward one there. Looks like he was able to get his red buff, especially looking at that XP bar. Thank you, production. Yeah, he does have red buff. So after the Raptors, he will be hitting level 6. We'll see where that first gank is going to come in. I wonder where he'll have his best luck, especially right now. He doesn't have his flash. And no Predator. He's gone phase rush this time around. Very far off from the chem tank.
And that's a very unfortunate situation, because then you get into the problem that we mentioned earlier coming into this game, where even if you do find an Impale, if it's not a super squishy target, you're actually not going to have the damage to finish them off, right? Like, this is not the same Tristana from last game. Let us repeat that again. Ruler has a 20 CS lead. And a big part of it is that what happened every single time is Ruler and Life, they shove in the wave, right? Like, Hena is just kind of forced to either pick it up on the turret, and lost hitting on the turret with Tristana is kind of awkward because of the E passive. And then simultaneously, like, they need to help the jungler, so you saw some like semi-rotations where you give up a couple of creeps, you do that 3-4 times, and all of a sudden you're looking at a really big deficit. And it's just bleeding resources left and right, and this feels a lot more similar to game number 1 than it did to game number 2. And it's starting to feel like how angry Gen.G is kind of inverse to the chances of a bro reverse sweep dream.
Yeah, does feel like that at this point in time. MT looks like he went for a little bit of a run in the enemy jungle. There's a pretty deep control ward on in there. Rascal wants to get on top of Lava, but MT's here with the Hex Flash over the wall, ready and willing to protect. And his service is not needed this time around. Just respect coming out from Rascal as he backs up to the top lane.
Another thing we haven't touched upon, because this mid lane has been kind of a snooze fest, outside of the roams of BDD towards the enemy jungle, is that BDD also went for the Halo Blades, which mean that in like super short bursty trades, you actually have a considerable damage lead compared to something like Lethal Tempo, which we've seen getting picked up as well more recently again. And it does make Lava's life a lot harder, and I think that's also one of the reasons why BDD is able to just consistently find the pressure in this lane. And it's just, this is like, again, like game number 1, we keep coming back to it, but it's like, it's a stereotypical Gen.G game. They have prior on basically every lane. They find huge leads just through laning phase, and they're already up 1 Drake. We're going to get an Ocean, we're going to get a super relevant Drake no matter what, because both Mountain and Infernal are crazy good here for Gen.G, because Mountain makes you, gives you some much needed tankiness. You don't necessarily have like a true front line like Bro does. But if you get a Mountain, you definitely will. Volibear will be more than tanky enough, and so will Galio. Or you get an Infernal, and then you have a Frio Nidalee that has very painful spears, and a Zed that hits like a truck, and Rudis Kaiser.
Yeah. I think if they begin to pick up Infernal Drakes, the game is it's just kind of done. Yeah. Like, it's not going to be easy for Bro.
It's interesting because, like, especially with Bro's comp, I can see Mountain being even worse just because it means you can't do anything anymore, right? Like, how are you going to kill someone through Mountain with
They already didn't have a lot of damage in their comp, right? And they don't have 4 kills on Tristana, again, who is, by the way, down 20 CS in the bottom lane, so that's just adding insult to their current situation.
What do you think would be worse, Infernal or Mountain? I think that I don't think there's necessarily a clear answer, right? It also depends on how you play it out. But I think it's interesting because this is not a situation with.
I'd say probably Mountain, just especially because I feel like when you're ahead, it's always better to build like defensive items. That it kind of makes your wins more consistent, right? You can't just get like blown up if you're going glass cannon or something like that. Infernal kind of leads you down that path, whereas with Mountain, you almost feel like you have to build some kind of resistances so you can get some of those percentage gains. So that would be my guess. And of course, obviously just the innate tankiness from the dragons themselves will make you more defensive and in a better spot from ahead.
Well,
but
we'll see what they go for. You're reading my mind, Feldes.
Yeah.
I know, I mean, we've been casting together for so long, it does make a lot of sense, but it's good to see.
Yeah, we're on the same page already. Chemistry is real.
I think it's the Lol Park buff. Must be.
It's a real thing. It's a real thing for sure.
Is. I wonder when the...
It's Mountain. There you go. The chemistry comes true once again. We actually
did it, everyone.
2 Mountains and 1 Infernal in our first series.
Okay.
Wow, we're on fire.
Well, once.
Yeah. What is it when we have Mountain?
I couldn't resist.
We're very grounded.
We're rock solid.
Oh, that's even better. That's much better.
Oh, Gen.G are looking like a team revitalized, and we touched on this a little bit, but it felt like Gen.G took a lot of coin flips in that first series, where you don't need to go for 2v2s. It's not a necessity. And this time they didn't, and this outcome of the game is looking a lot more like what we expected from this series.
Yeah. It's also part of the reason why I think in the past we've had a lot of the top teams in the LCK just not really take risks ever, and like kind of lead to these more laid back, kind of boring, less action kind of style in the LCK. Like we used to see a lot from old SKT, now T1 obviously, and from Gen.G, then Samsung, where it was like, we're just going to make 0 mistakes, and that's how we're going to win the game. We're going to take all the objectives, we'll slowly push into your jungle with vision, and that's how we're going to win. They don't do the thing where it's like, let's dive the turret and just outplay you over and over again. And, we've kind of gone down that path once again. As Rascal is trying to 1v1 Hannah, almost feels like he could, but again, no risks. You don't need to do it.
Yeah, and there you go. Game 2, he would have gone for that, 100%.
Yeah.
But he's learned.
MT is still here. We have... Oh, okay.
This is the thing. Like, I don't think you kill him in the Impale, and then he ults.
NDS flash.
And the teleport is up. So
and he's level 11.
Yeah. I'm glad they don't commit. Oh, guys, come on. Don't do that. There's Galio's there as well. Okay, they let it go. I was a little bit scared there. It's just posturing to get this turret. Which they will be able to pick up. But the gold lead is still growing, and at 50 minutes, a 3k gold lead, a little bit more even, is nothing to scoff at.
Did he? He actually got that.
Oh, baby.
I was looking at the numbers on the bottom and the items, and then we got to zoom in and a scream from the Korean casters, which we can hear now, by the way, because we're in the studio with them.
So good.
It's socially distanced, though. They're on the opposite side.
Very far away
of the studio. We could still hear them. They're very adamant about when something crazy happens. So that's how I knew that Rascal stole that away.
And I think we're starting to get to the point where it's similar to game number 1, where Fredit Brion just getting a straight front-to-back teamfight is not enough anymore. You got to actually like get a really good angle or find a really big play. Finding Ruler would be that.
Tank is ready here at 16 minutes. But he did it. He finally got there. And still waiting. I feel like it's that skeleton meme, you know? Like
yeah, it's like, oh.
This was us waiting for Umti's ultimate to finally be used.
And again, it's due to the early jungle pressure coming. Oh, love me some synchronized recalls. Very happy about that. And it's similar to what we saw in game number 1, where the Gen.G actually take the early game tempo and don't relent anymore. Now, there are still a lot of ways for Fredit Brion to get back into this game. You could even argue that they're not out of the game yet, but this time there's a couple of crucial differences. Henna isn't overly fat, and your team comp, while in the late game you'll be fine, I think in the mid game you definitely lack a considerable amount of damage. As we see the gold lades, that's not good. That's a lot of gold and a lot of items coming through their Veldas. And Skarner is one of the champions where you could argue he doesn't need gold as much, but he does need impact with Impale. And thus far we have seen no Impales and thus no impact.
0.
Yeah. But there hasn't been any opportunity, right? Like, it's just...
I mean, he got totally denied, right?
Yeah.
And, this is probably the reason why we don't see more Skarner in the LCK. You know, just great junglers are just not going to let you have it. And it's not only the jungler, right? It wasn't like a 1v1 difference, even though it kind of started off that way. A lot of it is the lanes and the priority that you get, the ability to push in, and then help from your team as well. They need to be doing well in their lanes. As the first, no, oh wow. No Impale. Are we gonna, okay, we got it. We got the Impale onto the Galio. He finally did it. Is that gonna be the win in the team fight though? It looks like, I suppose so. I mean, they lost their turret, but they did get a kill.
I think the problem here though is that as Fredit Brion, you can't contest this Drake. That's gonna be soul points as they teleport to,
response teleport.
I'm moderately confused because I feel like, yeah, you just take the Drake here, and I don't think giving up the turret is the worst of cases, but they don't want to give over control top side of the map, which with Baron approaching, I guess does make a little bit of sense. And Gen.G obviously confident enough in that they can just go for the Drake regardless, as he was so close, Valdez.
Well, he was so close, and then he finally got there, right? He flashes on this one, and then Galio's like, here, how about you take me instead? And it's definitely a better target for Gen.G as well. Like, you'd rather have your tank get pulled, but they still get the kill, right? He's not tanky enough to survive an Impale by any means, so it was the kill going the way of Bro, but, you know, just the one kill for everything that they did use. And pick it up.
What really matters is the subsequent follow-up, right? And like, it's still soul point because the health bars were so low. Because Gen.G actually did get a fairly decent front-to-back team fight there regardless. Rascal's also at this point in the game where Volibear, even if he doesn't have a huge lead, which is 15 CS, but it's nothing to write home about, he's still innately tanky enough. Now, if you get later into the game and you don't have a lead or you don't have a Mountain Drake, which currently they obviously do, you're going to get to a situation where Hannah's going to shred through you way easier than a Cyan or an Onward just because of your lack of defensive steroids, right? You have your shield and your ultimate, and that's basically it. It's not as good as a Cyan shield or the Ornn resistances that he gets. So this point in the game, though, doesn't really matter. It's basically free real estate if you can just stand behind the big angry bear. And now it's soul point. Gen.G have to do nothing for the next 3.5 minutes, and then they can just kind of win the game.
Yeah. You know, you kind of called it, Chronicler, right? Where you were like, well, if they just play it safe, and they don't make mistakes, they don't force trades, they should win the game, right? They should just, you know, use that early game to win like they usually do. And just go from there. And that's exactly what's happened. I mean, we only have 5 kills here in this game. Compared to last game where the Tristana ended up 13-0. So
that's a big difference.
Very difference. Oh! He goes the Impale! He found the angle! And they do have the damage eventually. He was taken very far into the enemy jungler. And he finally got it done once again.
Fresh and Skarner move over. All you need is an Alistair to just boop them further into the team. And there you do see the power, right? Like, especially on your own Spire. the combination of turbo cam tag with the speed up from your W shield and then a smite. There's just nothing you can really do there as Clit to get away if you don't have your flash. It's a really nice pickup. It's unfortunately also inconsequential.
That's true.
That's the sad part, right?
Sec flash though. They didn't have to use anything to get this, right? Which is one great part, but as you mentioned, it's just a kill.
Does go to Trist, and that was a shutdown, right? So, you know, as Fredit Brion, you say we take those. One really thing I really like to see, or I'd love to point out here, is that Ruler has actually gone for the Lord Dominix, which in this comp works so incredibly well. You do have a front lane yourself, and you just want to try and get through the beefy boys, the Sign, the Skarner, and the Light, as we see Baron go so quickly here.
Yeah, they know this is happening now, but it might just be a little too late. As the smite comes down, as it looked like it came in at 66 health, so maybe Alistair could have gotten in there and stolen it away. Not 100% sure. Maybe he smited it down to 66. But either way, we do have the Baron just pretty much taken for free by Gen.G. And it's at a great time, too, because we still have a minute and a half until this Mountain Drake does come in.
And this is the type of thing that I think Fredit Brion, if they're not in an exceptional position like last game, does have some issues with, is you go from getting a pick on the enemy jungler, getting a big shutdown, into completely losing all your control of the Dragon area while you do have a beefy front line, while you do have ways to actually face check brushes and move on to an enemy, especially in a man advantage position. But instead, against the Kai'Sa, against the Azir that has his first item thinnest, it's just so hard to keep that Baron alive and kicking. And now we're just going to see a Baron Sieger into what probably will be a Mountain Soul take. Fredit Brion, all or nothing here, Valdez.
Yeah. They got to make some kind of stand. Now, if they got a nice Impale and made it 5v4 right before the Soul fight, there's a decent chance, right? Depending on who you get.
Scorpion.
If it's just Galio, might not be as good, but Ruler, you know, he's tempting fate right there in the front. He's like, we'll see if you can actually catch me. As now moving over towards the Azir. Not really actually going for this one, and getting chunked is not going to help your case.
That's Soul, right? Like, you just can't move up here as Fredit Brion. It's impossible. There is no vision. There is no way that you ever get away with that, with all lanes getting shoved in. And we do see the Kawe, and like we're just gonna let it be. And that is, as we said before, for a composition that already lacks innate damage if they don't snowball or if they don't find a lead somewhere, it's a really big problem. Though, come on, Scorpion. find that Kai'Sa.
Do something.
Do it. I mean, I don't want to say that, but like, just find Kai'Sa.
No, he's done some stuff, you know. He's actually found some nice angles already that, you know, in a game like this, we wouldn't even blame you if you found nothing, right? We would just be like, okay, yeah, sad game for the Skarner. But he has found some stuff. Unfortunately, it's not really going to change the way this game goes. Mountain Soul is taken for Gen.G. And we talked about this. They don't really have the damage to cut through it. There's already defensive items built on everybody, including Ruler, who has a QSS.
Aww.
So, no more fun and games had for the Scorpion this time around. Sorry, Chronicler.
You know, last game, might look for it. It's so hard with the QSS, because I was about to say, you know, last game, Ruler, he didn't really do what he needed to do. You know, he went for some unnecessary kills. As I'm pretty sure Rascal can just walk off here. But this time he's doing well. He's paying his taxes. He's not doing any crazy skill checks. And you see it makes it so hard for Fredit Brion to actually do anything.
Yeah. Well, the Baron is done. MT, you could see he was thinking about it, but Rascal... Yeah, level 15.
Oh.
Not really finding a good angle. You could see Heno was trying to challenge a little bit, trying to flex and actually, you know, make an impact and get some damage going, but even that isn't looking super good. He did build that Last Whisper. He's going to need it for some kind of item against all of the tankiness for everybody on Gen.G.
And as Gen.G, you have two avenues here in front of you. Either you play it super chill and you say, we just wait till Elder, and then we get Elder, and then you win the game no matter what. From this point on, like, I don't see you losing with Elder unless you find a really interesting way to play the fight, and interesting in this context means bad.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or you can take a little bit more risks, which I wouldn't mind either. It's something that they have done, where you look for someone like Hannah or Umti looking for a play a little bit too enthusiastically.
Oh, oh, he messed it up. Wait, he messed up the dash. I thought maybe he was going to flash that wall, but not actually going to happen. BDD also with a stopwatch and flash of his own. So, you know, this is what we're talking about, all right? Little by little, we get Zonias, we get stopwatches, Banshees Veils, stuff like that. Everybody's got their summoners. Bro are going to go for it, looks like. Feels like it. Hoya not able to find the knock-up angle this time around. Ooh, that's a lot of damage onto Delight with that one spear.
And this is the case, we talked about it earlier a lot, this is the case where you would rather have Infernal, because then your spears would be like doing a lot more. Now, you know, you have Mount, so you can just take it slow. I think that it's fine here as Gen.G. Your Baron buff has run out, you didn't actually crack the base open. There's literally no need for you to go and try and make an over-aggressive play. The situation in which Ruler gets like first hit by Alistair, so he needs to QSS that, and then Unti comes in, like just don't take your risk, wait 3 minutes, or wait 45 seconds for the next Baron, just take that. Like, that's also fine. It's hard to throw it away from him.
Yeah, you can see Gen.G, they're grouping up for it now. Alistair, Delight up on the top side, looking for an angle, looking for what he can find. He's not going to find much but darkness up there. So, going to clear all the way into the enemy jungle. And then just go ahead, back up, and take that Baron down. Henna, desperate. He's trying to get as much farm as he possibly can. He's waiting for that one team fight. Ruler and Life pretty far up the lane. Wow, they're just teleporting straight into Bro.
I mean, if it's Rascal, does he really care? He's not going to get impaled. Nothing's going to happen. But it does say a lot about the state of the game if Rascal can get away with that, and Bro are not even going to try and do anything about that.
Yeah, it does feel like that. Ruler kind of frontlining here, no fear. And they don't even need the Baron. They have baited them into a spot where maybe they can get a pick. And that's what they're going to be looking for here.
And you can just go for the Elder, right? Elder is a lot less scary. Go for it.
Look at the top side. He gets very much chunked up against the Volibear, who takes 0 damage.
Literally 0.
He's got shields still.
How did you get away with that?
He's got more shields now. MT just going to wait in the wings. Think about maybe if he can get a smite steal. As he gets the stun down, there's the impale finally. They do have the damage, but in they go. Ruler just gonna chip away at that back line. Henna does get the kill. He does hop away. But here we go. Teleport's now coming on in. They want to get on top of this Tristana. And there it is. They sweep her in. Take her down. Henna going to pick up that kill as Hoya also will eventually be chopped down. And now they're just going to push the top lane. They don't even need any of these buffs.
Unfortunately for the Fredit Brion fans out there, this feels a lot more reminiscent of the first game in the series. Gen.G, after a sloppy game number 2, bounce back. And they act like a team that we've seen time and time again. And it always comes back to how well they are able to play around early objectives, how well they're able to play around lane priority. And I think they're one of the only teams where I'd argue that specifically playing around their lane pressure, they do better than W6D2. And even that's a big claim to make, right?
Yeah.
But then W6D2 have the effect to have like the you make one mistake. And as we can see in this series, and not in this game, but definitely in the second game, maybe in the first one, Gen.G do still make mistakes. But not in this game.
Yeah.
Not in this one.
In this game, it's interesting to me that at the end of it all, they were still, I suppose it was scared to just run at the Baron. They were just like, no, you know, let's just fight them. But either way, they do get what they want in the end. They get the Baron. Here's the Elder Drake being taken right now by Bro. Really going all in on this objective as everybody is just being jumped on. The taunt comes in onto Henna, and huge bouncy castle as even the Emperor's Divide is going to get the job done. Ruler does get taken out at the end, but you'll note that there is no longer a Henna on the Rift either. As a double kill here for BDD, as only the Skarner does remain, and Gen.G will look to push and end the game.
And unfortunately for Fredit Brion, Ruler is not the only carry on this team. We're also looking at a BDD that has 3.5 items completed 30 minutes into the game. and he is more than happy to. I'm pretty sure Clade also did considerable amounts of damage in that final fight. And in this final game, it is Gen.G who do what we expect from them. And
insult to injury on that one. BDD gonna pick up another kill on the backside of it all. So after 31 minutes and many fights over these objectives, they love to troll here on the fountain, but they're just gonna take down the Nexus here at the end of the day. GG.